Welcome to or welcome back to Undo with Jericha Szlo. My name is Jericha Szlo. I am so excited and so happy that you are here. This week we're filming from the car. My office is a little occupied this week, and so this is what we had to roll with. Okay, this is a new experience for me. Anywho, one of my words for 2026 is authenticity. And what comes with that is being authentic to what I truly believe and expressing my thoughts and my theories and just the types of things that go on inside my brain, no matter how crazy they sound. And so the topic for this week's show is going to sound crazy. I am aware of that, okay? At least I am aware of it. But it is something that I do wholeheartedly believe, and I also do believe that there is a lot of value that you can take from this theory, which is why I have decided to share it, despite how intense it might be. The theory that we are going to discuss this week is the idea that planets and space don't exist, at least not in the way that we've been taught to understand them, and that this misunderstanding is what wires us into a false physical reality. With that being said, the nature of this show is not just to explore theories, it's also to relate it back to how you have complete control and autonomy over your reality. And so, of course, we will be circling this theory back to brain science and how it all correlates. If you are the type of person who gets offended by people who explore theories, I would love to just remind you that a theory is just that. It's a theory. Okay, and also that this Undo show is a theory forward platform. Okay, it's grounded in brain and nervous system biology, but the entire purpose is to help you reorganize your perception, to restore your internal authority, and to dismantle unconscious compliance with modern systems and the world that we've been conditioned to accept as reality. I share these theories to help you truly understand that reality is an illusion. Okay. And in understanding that, you can take back your power and live life on your own terms rather than feeling completely controlled by your reality and by the governing systems. So, with that being said, if you are not open to hearing theories and exploring theories, then this video and this show is not for you. Okay. So, move along. Move the fuck along. But if you are open to hearing different ways of thinking, then you are in the perfect place. Okay? Nothing is too crazy to me, and I love to talk about everything and anything. Okay, so you're in the perfect place. And I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. So please comment down below throughout this episode. At the very end of this episode, I really just want to talk more about this theory with you guys, okay? Before we do get started, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss an episode. We are live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I would love to have you a part of this community, okay? So let's dive in now, shall we? Okay, so the bold statement and theory that I am seeking to share in this episode is that planets and space don't exist. We've just been made to believe they do in order to keep us believing that we live in a physical reality. Because when you can get somebody to believe that they live in a physical reality, you get them to live by the rules of a physical reality. And that takes your power away. And now I do want to be clear up front, and I will get into this further in the episode. I do believe that the moon and the heavens are real, okay? What I question is whether they are physical destinations that humans can access, okay? Or whether we've been conditioned to miscategorize them. But again, back to the idea that if we believe that planets and space are real, it keeps us believing that we truly, really do live on a rock, that we live in a physical reality. And like I said, when you believe that you live in a physical reality, you believe or you start to live by the rules of a physical reality. Okay? And the rules of life, as we know them, are made and designed to keep us stuck, unhappy, unhealthy, and in survival mode. And you know what makes people extremely controllable? When they believe that they are stuck, because then they look to a higher power, such as governments, for answers, instead of understanding that they hold the power within themselves and that all the answers they need are within themselves because we are the creators of reality. I am also one of those people, one of many people, who does not believe that we've ever been to the moon. Okay. And whether it was intentional or not, I believe that the moon landing narrative functions as a psychological reinforcement. Not to prove that space exists, but to anchor the belief that reality is fundamentally physical, external, and governed by fixed rules that we are meant to live inside of. And so I do plan on breaking down a little bit more of this theory with you, but I'm also going to share the neuroscience of what happens when we believe that we are living in a physical reality. Because like I said earlier, the premise of this show is not just to explore conspiracy theories, it's also to understand how the potential truth behind these theories allows us to take back our power and live life freely. Ultimately, my number one goal is to just guide you to think deeper and bigger about the world that we live in. Because in doing so, you can start to shift your perception and shift your perspective and just truly understand that you hold the power. So there is just always going to be a deeper message that I'm trying to convey behind any theory that we explore here. Okay? But I'm done yapping your ear off. Let's go ahead and actually jump into the meat and bones of this week's episode. Okay? There are fundamentally different models of reality, not necessarily what's older versus newer, but just different assumptions about what reality actually is. And one of these models, including what's described in the Bible, speaks about the sun, the moon, and the stars being placed inside a firmament. And above and below this firmament is water. If this is true, which, by the way, this is not about religion, okay? I feel the need to add that disclaimer because I feel like a lot of people get hot-headed when you bring up religion. I'm not even a religious person. Okay, I do believe in God and a higher power, and I do fully believe that the Bible is an accurate representation of the meaning of existence. Okay, at least the original scriptures, not like the remakes where like pages are missing, whatever, okay? But I'm not a religious person. But if this is true, that would mean that there is no outer space above us, and it would also mean that we do not live on a floating rock amongst other floating rocks. Even if you do want to look at this from an evidential lens, okay, you can't find any real photos of satellites. It's just all renderings. Same with planets. If you look up pictures of Earth and like other planets, it's just renderings. We live in 2026. We have so much advanced technology. If we went to the moon, however long ago, a long fucking time ago, number one, why haven't we gone back? But number two, how are the only photos we have of Earth and outer space and other planets just renderings? We've got Katy Perry going to another planet. We've got Elon Musk talking about putting population on Mars. If we're talking about stuff like that, how do we not have actual photos? Do you know what I mean? Just the resources and technology that we have today, why is there not some sort of live footage that we can see of outer space? Why does every photo and video we see of planets and space just look so damn fake? But whether or not these images are real isn't even the point. Okay? What matters is that we are always just shown reality. We're just told what's true, right? We're never allowed to actually experience it directly. And just another note, in the Bible, it says that stars rotate around in a circular fashion day and night serving God, and that stars are angels. And it describes these angels to appear as a spinning wheel inside of another spinning wheel. And there is footage of people zooming in on stars, even with their like iPhones, right? Their cell phones. And they look exactly like you would expect them to based off this description. And I remember this time last year, there was a lot of footage going around of people explaining these like weird orbs in the sky. I don't remember what exactly was going on around that time of year. Maybe there was a lot of UFO sightings. I don't remember, okay? But I remember I saw this video of someone comparing what the Bible describes a specific star to look like, and that was the exact the exact video footage that we were seeing from multiple different strangers on the internet. Before I even talk about the moon, I want to be clear. This isn't about whether something happened or didn't happen, okay? This is not the point of this episode. This is about how certain stories condition us to experience reality as external, physical, and outside of our control. Now, the moon landing. I see this as arguably one of the largest conspiracy theories out there. You even have like Kim Kardashian in on it. Like she has voiced publicly that she does not believe we've ever landed on the moon. There are just a lot of people who truly believe that it was fake. And a few months ago, I remember seeing a few videos pop up on my For You page of Buzz Aldrin, I don't know, however you say it, who is, I believe, the second person to ever walk on the moon. And these videos were of him basically insinuating that he never went to the moon and that what we saw was a movie. So I found the full clips online, and I just want to share that with you before I get into the next thing that I want to say.
Well, let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does. I remember my parents waking me up, and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money.
I will say transparently, originally when I saw the first clip on TikTok, it cut out a lot of what he said, so there wasn't proper context. Okay, and in the video that I saw originally on TikTok, he tells the talk show host that what we saw was an animation. And the video kind of ended there. It was basically him just saying like, no, we never went to the moon. What you saw was an animation. But as you saw in the full clip, you can see that he does preface that there was no technology at the time to basically like live stream it, right? And I do think context matters. He definitely could be saying that what we saw with our actual eyes wasn't the real moon landing because they had to reenact it for the screens. I'm a truth seeker, okay? Which means I'm not just going to take a small part of a clip completely out of context and run with it just to prove my point. Okay, he very well could have meant that they went to the moon and then they reenacted it for the public, and what the public saw was an animation. But it also doesn't explain why he said to the little girl that they never went to the moon. And I also do think that he was struggling a little bit to come up with like a valid reason as to why, with all of the advanced technology and resources we have today, no one has ever gone back. I have also heard that Neil Armstrong refuses to swear on the Bible that he went to the moon, which also raises some red flags in my opinion. But whether the moon landing was real or not, again, is not actually my point. The point is that believing we physically left Earth and stood on another object in space just reinforces the idea that reality itself is fundamentally physical. But nonetheless, my personal opinion is that I just do not believe anyone has ever been to the moon, because I don't believe that there is an outer space and other planets. And while I do believe that there is a moon, right, because it's in the Bible, the sun, the stars, the moon, I don't believe that the moon is a destination or an object that you can just fly to and walk on. I believe that the sun and moon exist in correlation to nature and seasons, but that they're not actual physical objects. And that the story that they are physically reachable just exists to lock humans into a false material framework. Which then brings us to the real question here. Why fake a moon landing? Why pretend that there are planets in outer space if there really isn't? When I was looking a bit more into this theory, which honestly I was shocked to see that there are quite a lot of other people who don't believe planets exist or that space exists, and I wasn't aware of that. This is kind of just something that I kind of thought on my own a few months ago. And so I just looked up this theory, and surprisingly, there are a lot of people who do believe it. But I did notice that most people's conclusion as to why we would be sold this fake moon landing or this fake story that planets exist and that space exists and that we've been there and blah, 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 was for money. Basically something like NASA is a huge money-making machine, and getting people to believe it's possible to do these things brings in more money. And maybe that's true, right? Maybe that's part of it. I'm not denying the fact that those in power love their money. But I have a bit of a different opinion. I believe that we've been sold this false reality to make us believe that we live in a physical reality. Because like I said earlier, when you can get someone to believe they live in a physical reality, you get them to live by the rules of a physical reality. When we look at the neuroscience of perception, we know that whatever you grow up believing is the image your brain will create and the experience of life that you will have. When we can physically see with our eyes that a human has landed on the moon, and we hear that it's possible, or we learn in school that planets exist, we then lock our perception of the world into the reality that we live in a physical world. If reality is believed to be external, physical, linear, and governed by scarcity, then people are going to chase instead of receive. They're going to strive instead of settle. They will wait instead of access and fear things and fear life instead of trust. Whatever we perceive is what controls our behavior. So when you can get somebody to believe that they live in a physical reality, you get them to behave like they live in a physical reality. You get them to behave in ways of striving for money, working hard for money, slaving their life away for money, thinking they have to earn joy. This is why money feels hard, why healing feels slow and joy feels earned, because in a physical model, everything requires effort, time, and permission. Just the belief that life is external puts you into the mentality of someone who needs to live by the rules of life in order to survive. If everyone truly understood in their nervous system that we live in a firmament created by God, then we would all understand that we are the creator and that we hold the power. And the governing systems and people in power would have no power. I truly believe that we've been sold this false narrative that we live in a physical reality so that those in power can benefit from us behaving like we live in a physical reality. Because ever since I have quit the matrix, exit the matrix, whatever you want to call it, oh my God, the amount of freedom and free will and choice that I feel I have, and it's insane what happens when you just give yourself permission to acknowledge and accept that you are the creator. You create your reality. God is always on your side, or the universe is always on your side, whatever you believe in. Again, I'm not forcing religion onto you or forcing you to believe in anything specific. But when you believe that there is just a higher power on your side and that everything will always work out and you just trust, you live life so differently than you do when you believe that you live in a physical world with these rules on how to survive and how to be responsible. But I know that there's at least one person watching or listening to this thinking, but people have seen planets through a telescope. And so I want to share the neuroscience of perception with you. Your brain is not a passive receiver of reality. It is an active prediction machine. There is something called predictive processing, where at any given moment, your brain is predicting what's about to happen, comparing those predictions to sensory input, and then updating itself based on the mismatch and prediction error, which means that you don't perceive the world directly. You perceive the brain's best guess of the world. Now, this doesn't mean that the brain hallucinates randomly. Okay, I'm not calling you crazy or anything like that. It means perception is constrained by belief. We talked about this a little bit on last week's episode, where we talked about mastering reality and what reality actually is. And we talked about how perception is based on belief. You will perceive what you believe. So if you have been conditioned your entire life to believe that there are planets in the sky, your brain will literally create the image of planets in the sky even if it's not there. When you look at the sky and you carry high confidence that something exists up there, your brain will ask, what is the most likely explanation given my model? And then it will fill the gap based on prediction. Number one thing to understand, you never access reality directly. You access your brain's model of it, especially if you go seeking to see something, okay? Like deliberately pulling out a telescope to go find planets because you believe that they're there. Your brain will fill in the gaps to make that image your reality. If you go to seek something that you truly believe is there, then your brain will fill in the gaps to make that image your reality. But this science goes for reality and life itself, okay? Not just a potential explanation for why people see planets that might not exist. If you are conditioned to believe anything at all, that you need to work for money, that you have to earn joy, that good things take time, success takes time. Your brain is always going to filter information and fill in the gaps to match that reality in order to make sense of the world and in order to feel safe in the world. Believing that there are planets and space and that we've been to the moon, you train your nervous system to accept one core assumption. Reality is material first and consciousness comes second. And when you mislabel reality as physical, it then shapes your behaviors. And you start living by the rules of a physical reality that those in higher power have conditioned many generations in order to create systems that benefit them and that make you powerless. That single assumption quickly dictates how you live. And it teaches you that reality exists outside of you, rather than teaches you that reality is perception and you have control over what you perceive and how you experience it. So again, my theory is that we've been conditioned to believe that there are planets in space in order to wire us to perceive a physical reality that doesn't exist, to keep us trapped inside the rules of a physical reality which keeps us stuck and unhappy. Because those who believe that we are trapped inside a physical reality aren't the ones who are creators. They are the ones who perceive limitation. And you're not powerful when you're living life in limitation. But you know what does make you powerful? Understanding that you are the creator. That is all for this week's episode of Undo. I hope it got you thinking. Again, I'm not asking you to accept this theory. I'm just asking you to question the rules that we've been living by. I'm just taking what we know to be true about the brain and relating it back to how we live in a system that has taken our power and truth away from us. And that by understanding this science and understanding truly how your brain and nervous system work and how reality actually works, you can take back your power and live life with truth and freedom. Don't forget to like and share this video, and please give me your insight, give me your thoughts down below in the comments. I want to hear them. I want to have a conversation with you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I will see you guys next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.